Hello and welcome, I'm Maggie Lee. Small and medium-sized enterprises are the backbone of Europe's economy. Operating in a highly competitive marketplace, being environmentally friendly is increasingly regarded as a positive differentiator. But with smaller technology budgets, just how easy is it for these organisations to be and remain green? To discuss the challenges facing smaller organisations, I have with me Jordan Gross, a green convert and managing director of Ultraspeed, a UK company that specialises in hosting solutions, and Phil Andrews from Cisco. Jordan, if I could start with you first. From the moment that you started your company around 9 years ago in a small bedroom in North London, you knew you wanted to be environmentally friendly, but how did that actually inform the decisions that you made with the company going forward?
Well, to be totally honest, in the early years, it was actually quite difficult, as there wasn't a lot of green technology available in those early years. I would say, in late 1990s, early 2000s, the world was still really warming up to the idea. It's become much easier, I would say, in the last 2 to 3 years, though. And you're having a lot more manufacturers who are coming out with green alternates on their products. So we're seeing a lot more things, for example, which are manufactured to be compatible with DC power, for example, with cooling in mind, that kind of thing. And that's made it very much easier in the last few years to make both commercially sound and environmentally sound decisions.
To bring the two together, in effect.
Absolutely, absolutely.
If I could bring Phil in there, you're an expert on data centres, Phil. Now, how do you see data centres evolving to meet the demands of smaller companies, like the companies Jordan runs?
Well, I think the benefit of Jordan's company is by providing a hosting environment. He's actually helping other companies centralise their IT into what is likely to be a very efficient infrastructure in terms of the cooling infrastructure and potentially the sourcing of the power, so that Jordan can source green power and provide highly efficient cooling infrastructure, which is where a lot of the power in a data center goes. So for smaller companies to have those kind of facilities available, plus a very efficient network infrastructure in the data center to make sure all the resources can be shared effectively, is what can really provide a big benefit to a smaller company, which is really helping them to get to economies of scale.
And what questions should those smaller companies be asking of people who provide data center space, when they want to rent space from them? What specifically should they come prepared to ask?
Well, I think they need to understand where the power is sourced, because if it's a green source of power, whether it's nuclear or environmentally produced power, that can have a big impact on the potential carbon footprint. And the other aspect is the cooling infrastructure for the data center, because some data centers are actually engineered to be able to cool without using power to chill the air. They're engineered to use environmentally effective cooling, so they're using free air cooling or basically other methods of taking the waste heat away without consuming power to take that waste heat away.
Okay, so armed with those questions, prepared to go in that direction, are there any other hurdles that smaller organisations face to go green?
I think there is a general mindset change. I think people have got to stop looking at it as going green. And I think they need to more look at it as being sustainable, I think, and producing a sustainable business.
So what's the difference, Jordan?
I think people view going green as a marketing and a PR message. Whereas I think sustainability is about building a business that has green credentials, in a sense, but you're building something which is not just green for green's sake. There's a real purpose, so that in 5 or 10 years you can look back on what you've done and say, yes, we built this business in a sustainable way that was also green at the same time.
So actually using the label green can get in the way sometimes?
I think so, yeah. I think it's banded around far too much as one of these PR and marketing messages.
Would you agree, Phil?
Yes, and again, it boils down to looking at what it is that you can do in a practical way to either replace the energy you're using or to maximize the efficiency of the infrastructure that you're providing. The other areas that smaller companies benefit are organizations, for instance, in hosted offices that smaller companies very often use, where they provide facilities such as a telepresence facility, so that very, very high-quality video conferencing can be done with international locations, again, cutting out the carbon footprint for people having to travel. So if you can reduce the travel, you can reduce the power in the IT, that's how you help smaller companies get a benefit from the green side of things.
Jordan, as someone who actually runs a smaller company, what has been the biggest payoff, do you think, by taking this sustainable approach?
I would say overall that our energy bills have been slashed significantly. When you look at the services that we're deploying now compared to what we were deploying 2 years ago, they now, the power consumption has been reduced by 50%. It's not a made-up figure. This is what we get in the real world, and that has a knock-on effect for our power bills, obviously. And also, the servers that we buy now are much more efficient when it comes to cooling. And again, we see a power saving there. So I think that's certainly a major upside. There is a nice aspect to a PR value as well involved with it, obviously as well. But I would say overall, it's the commercial aspects which are the main drivers for us.
And finally, does living in a low-carbon economy mean that we have to effectively give up the things that we enjoy and effectively wear a hair shirt?
I don't think so. No, I think we just need to get used to a way of fitting our lifestyles around the requirements of using less carbon and using less energy generally. I mean, we certainly think that the idea, and I certainly think the idea is not to offset necessarily, but is to reduce consumption at source, and that's a very important differentiator.
And Phil, does living in a low carbon economy mean less technological innovation?
Actually, no, I don't think so, because if you look at the innovations that are happening at the moment, the two areas that we create most of our carbon are actually in the utilisation of IT with the power. And we see virtualisation technology, which is huge innovation, coming in to help reduce the power by increasing the efficiency of equipment. The other area is travel. And this is where we see technologies such as telepresence, which is extremely innovative, to be able to have literally high-definition video meetings with your counterparts in multiple countries, removing the need for flights, travel, lost time, and huge carbon footprint. Those are the kind of things we're going to see a lot of in terms of innovation.
So summing up then, gentlemen, what I've learned from this conversation is that it's quite feasible and commercially viable for a smaller organisation to create a sustainable business, a green business, that substantial savings can be made on the power front, particularly by utilising data centres more effectively, and that effectively moving into a low-carbon economy doesn't mean less technical innovation, in fact quite the opposite, more.
Yeah.
Jordan and Phil, thank you very much indeed. In our fifth and final episode, we'll be discussing how virtualisation software has become a prime driver in bringing about change. Till then, goodbye.